everybody. It's Kristin Bentz in for Mike Broomhead today. Technical difficulties, you know it happens. The ladies are running the show. You never know what's going to happen today. Guess who's here? I want to talk all about the Democratic National Convention, and I've got Jim Cross, my go-to expert, who's going to break down everything that's happening in Chicago, and then we're also going to talk about what's happening locally. Jim Cross.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Yeah?
Watching all the developments in Chicago.
I know. Okay, so I want to ask you firstly, there's been some activity overnight.
Yeah, protests outside the Democratic National Convention, seeing now that they've activated, or standby, I should say, 250 National Guardsmen.
Now, I know it's Chicago, and Chicago is going to Chicago, right? But these protesters...
It's not just a few. There's thousands of protesters, and that was a concern going into this. So, you know, a lot of people are worried this could turn into another 1968, which was...
Let's educate the folks out there that weren't around.
That was when...
and you were a baby.
Oh, I was little back then. I mean, it got out of control. A lot of protests, violence in the streets, and so on and so forth. You know, we're just now into the opening stages of this. It goes through Thursday night. You know, she goes in, Kamala Harris does, with a lot of tailwind right now. She has grabbed a lot of momentum, and which is kind of rare to see. I mean, she's only been in this about a month since Biden decided he was not going to run again for re-election. She's either leading close in a lot of the polls, or Trump, the former president, is leading close in a lot of polls. So most of the experts think this is really going to be razor thin all the way down. And really, it was like our Mike O'Neill told me, the campaign really kicks off. I mean, it's obviously a big event, but things really get snowballing right after Labor Day. That's when the rubber meets the road. So
I'm hearing all of these various, I don't know, strange things that I want you to confirm or deny, but I'm hearing that delegates are not allowed to check in to the convention under their real names for fear of protesters doxing them, finding them.
That I have not seen officially yet. That would not surprise me at all if people were, you know, being very careful with their identity, not wanting their names out, and so on and so forth. And it kind of just tells you where we're at in this political world right now. We've talked about it before. There's not a lot of gray area right now. The country is very much divided. And that's not going to change before Election Day, and it probably won't change after. It certainly won't change after Election Day.
And again, we're talking with Jim Cross, who is celebrating 25 years at KTAR.
Thank you.
God knows how many years in this industry.
40... Somewhere over 40.
So he's gracing me with his presence today. So tell me about polls. Tell me about what are we going to expect, and who's showing up to the DNC?
As far as it's really a who's who of the Democratic Party. You've got former presidents Obama and Clinton. Later this week, you've got former First Ladies Michelle Obama, Hillary Clinton, obviously a former First Lady, but also the former Secretary of State. Those are just to name a few. Nancy Pelosi is going to speak at this. And, you know, President Biden's going to speak tonight, and there's going to be a lot of interest or curiosity about how that goes. I think most people expect a very civil, very pointed. This is basically his goodbye. This begins the long goodbye.
Okay.
To when he leaves office, one way or the other. And this is a changing of the guard from him, who's been in politics since 1972. He was around in D.C. when Watergate happened. And still there. He's going to speak tonight, I understand, once his remarks are over with. He's going to go on vacation for a couple of weeks. Harris was in Arizona last week. President Trump, former President Trump, coming in Thursday. We're hearing a border tour Thursday. Then a rally in Glendale, Desert Diamond Arena on Friday, where Harris was at last week. So we may not be the battleground state right now, but we are certainly one of the top 5 or 6. I think everybody's zoned in on Pennsylvania, on Michigan, on Wisconsin, maybe a little bit Georgia, North Carolina. But everybody expected us to be one of the big players in this election for a number of reasons. And it's certainly, we're drawing a lot of attention lately.
As we should.
Yeah.
Right, wrong, or indifferent. Let's talk some local election polling data. Obviously, Kerry Lake and Gallego.
Yeah, Gallego, one of the polls, he's up 9. Another poll I saw, he's up 11. His lead's been, depending on which poll, 4 or 5 points mostly, and some polls a little bit higher. The thing that makes that race very interesting is you've got a congressman, Ruben Gallego, against a former TV anchor, Republican, Kerry Lake. And that race, it may not be the one that determines the balance of power in the Senate, but it's going to be one of them. And then you've got several congressional races in Arizona, some close, some not, that will have a say in how the House breaks down too. So we're a player. I mean, and it's good to see Arizona this important. I mean, it's nice to be thought of this highly as a battleground state, and to have this much say, no matter what your party affiliation is, it's good to be in the spotlight.
Absolutely. Speaking of spotlight, if you're just joining us right now, I'm talking with Jim Cross, who is our what do we call you these days? Emeritus?
Haven't
Wizard?
called that one yet. Senior news reporter, just news reporter.
You're not a senior news reporter. You're the news reporter.
News hound. Yeah.
You are the news hound. Anyway, it's Jim Cross joining us today to talk about all things elections in Arizona, battleground states, DNC, all of that. And it is nice to have Arizona in the spotlight in a good way. And there's just, oh my gosh, how are you feeling? Because you've covered this for a minute.
Yeah, it's been, it's different than 2016 was. It's tense, but it's not like 2020 was. I mean, there's certainly, the tension between the candidates, between the parties. It's a different kind of race than it was in 2020. Everybody a month ago assumed Biden was going to stay in and run again. And a lot of the party leaders convinced him to step away from any re-election bid. And that's when Kamala Harris, the vice president, almost immediately became the nominee for the Democrat. Now it's official. But
do you think Biden will just kind of bow out gracefully? Do you think he'll have some licks? Do you think he'll be bitter? Do you think... Because I'm hearing a lot of chatter that he might come out and say some crazy off-the-wall
I honestly,
comments.
With his track record, I expect a dignified speech tonight, very probably cordial, very measured. He's stepping away at a time when it was in doubt if he could get reelected. The former president had gone up in the polls several points. Since the president has decided to not run again, Harris has gained a lot of traction. But again, I mean, we're 80-something days away. That's a lifetime in politics.
Right.
I mean, anything could happen. There could be a misstep on the candidates' parts, either one. There could be, economy problems. It could be any one of a number of things. There's always seems like there's a October surprise in there somewhere. So it remains to be seen. But right now, if everything goes on course like it's going, I think it's going to be a really close race. So.
Oh, my gosh. Jim Cross, thank you so much for joining us today and giving us all the details on the DNC, on the election, on everything going on. And I hope we hang out some more.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Catch up on Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast, and click the button in the middle to subscribe.